All right, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of the PropTech Genius Show. And today's genius is Michael Kelly. Hey, Michael, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Yes, I'm awesome. I'm so glad. So Michael is one of our he's on our board. He's one of our board of directors, and he has been working in financing and hedge funds and everything around financing. And he has super cool ways for prop tech startups if they're trying to be creative about how they're going to go get their capital or just keep their business running. That's his gig, and it's awesome. And we're so glad to have you. It's so cool to have you here. It's so good.
Yeah, and then I try not to make it all about me, Amy. I mean, t tell me more about, you just enrolled in school. What's going on there? Tell me a little bit
We're
about it.
doing this. No. This is I interview you. No, I was kidding.
Okay.
No, yeah, no, it's fine. Yes, I am. I am getting my master's degree at University of Texas in their business school, and their technology commercialization program. And I was very lucky in the fact that I've been around and I have that's don't say that as a woman, but anyway, I have lots of friends and one of my friends, his name is Rob Adams, and he runs Congress Avenue Ventures. He's been in the VC land forever. And Rob ran the technology commercialization program for 10 years at the University of Texas. He ran this program, and
Oh,
it's a super, super cool program. So when I was considering, when I was considering going, because I was like, I'm in my tech company and I'm trying to figure stuff out and struggling to raise capital. And I'm like, well, this is probably the best thing for me right now. Rob wrote my recommendation letter. So I was like, I had an in because I had the guy that ran the program for 10 years
nice.
as my friend. And I was like, I was like, oh, okay, no big deal. I'm going to get in, right? It's all good, right? But then I did not realize that the Macomb School of Business at the University of Texas, it's like a big deal to get into that graduate school. Like, I was like, oh, yeah, I guess, I am cool. I
Yeah,
don't know.
like stuff.
I was so surprised, but yes, yeah. So it's nice to have Rob Adams as your friend.
That is cool, cool, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I mean to build off that, you might want to look into Wharton Estonia program. You need to usually have 5 years in banking. Maybe PropTech will help, and that trains you to be a
Yeah.
president at a bank. So you meet a lot of presidents at banks. So
Oh, hey, that's always a good one. Yeah. Gotta meet
yeah,
presidents at banks. They're
yeah.
helpful.
You meet all those connections. But I always tell people in business, like they're street smart and book
Yeah.
smart. You combine both of those, that's entrepreneurship. And
Yeah, for
uh,
sure.
some of the things like that we've been working on. Um, we have investment science, so that's a firm. Very quite simply, we stay on top of the latest trends for banking and technology.
That's
We
cool.
provide objective consulting without compromise, no strategic ties to vendors. So
Hmm. Okay. So
if you
who are your customers? Like, is there banks for customers? The lending industry. Okay, very cool.
like banks, hedge funds, family offices, private equity,
Okay.
educational institutions, real estate. We just cast a wide net and we usually don't name everything. We just tell people, tell us what's on your roadmap. What do
Mm-hmm.
you need as a customer? And we'll
Right.
either connect you the right person. Uh, if you want to start doing strategic partnerships, government contracting, or
Right. Right.
whatever, tell us what's up. So I mean that's kind of how that started. And we also have it's not prop tech, but it's more an AI trading platform where we have 15,000 investment sentiments daily. Uh,
Interesting.
we're
Yeah.
in the process right now of bringing a professor in that has almost every single securities license, which
Wow.
enables us to launch a bank, which they've been
Oh,
able
look
to
at
stay to
that.
6 million, and then we can engage our hedge fund seeders to launch that. Some of the things we were talking about
Mm-hmm.
prior to the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
put a patent on software, launch a bond. Don't forget about mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah.
Don't forget about conducting a JV. So if you're in Texas, you're a prop tech, maybe you know a real estate person to do construction, you could do government contracts,
Mm-hmm.
and then you JV with the company in Europe. And there's something called the XM Bank. That's a government organization
Mm-hmm.
that does, if the project fails, they will insure it. But for that to
Oh,
work,
okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So it makes it a no-brainer for someone to go over there because they basically got a guarantee, right? So it's just nice. Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I am talking to this group out of the Netherlands. They reached out to me and
oh,
they reached out to me. It was so funny because they're like, "Hey, we were with it was like these two startup people in the Netherlands and they were like, "Yeah, really want to talk to you because and they were describing what they wanted to build,
oh,
right? And they were going through and describing it, telling me, and it's like, that's fabulous. I already built it. And they're like, no way, you did? I'm like, yeah, I already, that's what Facilimax does. And they're like, oh, that's awesome. Well, let's talk about bringing it over here. And I'm like, okay, all right. And so, but I was like, I don't know the first thing about going to Europe. And it's like, an interesting thing to like can you imagine like I mean it's a different going to a different market like going to New York, much less going to a different country and understanding all the regulations and all the things you have to do when you become an international company. But yeah, they're really super serious about licensing my technology and in the Netherlands. And I'm like, okay, let's figure this out. I don't know. I'm game for anything.
well, there's the thing I just spoke about. You can get
Yeah.
that set up and use that product. We can help you set that up. And oddly enough, that's where my wife's from. My wife is from the Netherlands.
Oh,
So,
really? Oh, that's
small
awesome.
world, as you
I
can see.
know. That is very cool. That is, yeah. I mean, but once you kind of figure it out, I think, obviously the process is different in every country, but whatever, right? So that's kind of everything. Let's back up a little bit. Let's tell everybody who you are, how you got started, what you do, like all those great things. So I'm technically supposed to be interviewing you, even though these are always just conversations. So
Sure.
yeah, yeah,
Free. Yeah.
yeah.
About myself, I broke into Wall Street in 2009, more working with Richard Wilson in the family office group and uh, working at a firm called Liquidnet, which is like hedge fund dark pools. So
Mm-hmm.
creating liquidity for anonymous trading for block trading. And
Mm-hmm.
then spent about half my career in Citigroup, uh, worked in IT my first year,
Yeah.
information security for the private bank, second
Yeah.
year, high frequency trading for SpotFX, City Capital Advisors for Dick and Panda's hedge fund. Then I did consulting for like Blackstone, KKR, financial modeling as a consultant, and another 3 years at Citi, regulatory fines and working with
Fun.
regulators. Um, a different engagements such as project management at a commercial bank, managing over 500 people, down to even Fitch Solutions, launching credit models. So I
Yeah.
built early warning signals. That's more drag and drop data cards, create financial products to see the probability of default. Uh,
Oh, interesting. Very, very cool.
like a
That's awesome.
nonprofit as well, Bethesda Lutheran. I helped them create like a go-to-market strategy launch, like a credit union for people with disabilities.
Oh,
So
very
we
cool.
did
That's
that,
awesome.
and then a little bit with Mizuho Securities, options trading desk, and some project management, financial modeling. And about a year ago, Barclays Investment Bank contractor, the chief operating officer, market and financial risk.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's what I launched something called the Deal Room.
Okay.
So that's an NDA non-circumvent. So you get a bunch of brokers who do deals or
Mm-hmm.
investors.
You talking about business deals, like business brokering, or are you talking what kind of brokering? Business
Yeah, I mean
business brokering.
anything from a physical gold mine down to real estate,
Hmm.
down to it's a giant sales funnel. It's all these different personas
Okay.
of even like precious metals,
Oh, interesting.
commercial real estate, residential. People want loans. What we do there is share economy, right? Everybody gets
Yeah.
nervous about everybody competing. So I said, let's create an environment. And that's the whole thing I tell people with the startup. Create something different. If
Yeah.
everything is people are nervous, make something warm and welcome.
Right. For
So it's a
sure.
welcoming environment. People are happy to share deals, revenue share economy. So we'll get a
Cool.
bunch of people. Let's say one person does international trade finance in Europe. We'll put them on the same project with the company. because then somebody else could say, hey, I'm doing the real estate side, and we put them in different swim lanes so nobody's competing.
Oh, okay, makes sense. Yeah.
And that's what I try to tell people too, is that when you're working either interstate or international, it's very difficult to build a team. You need to make sure people aren't competing. So the fact you're in Texas, I'm in New York,
Mm-hmm.
technically speaking, we're not competing in the same markets. And although I know a lot of commercial real estate, I don't have a prop tech firm, but I know I've used like Deal Logic and things for my
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
and it means I'm not competing with you, you're not competing with me, and that's how you build strategic partnerships.
For sure.
And that's a different way than giving out equity, but that's what we've been doing a lot now is just matchmaking. If two people apply for a loan, let's say there's a CEO of a construction company and then
Mm-hmm.
a CEO of a cement company,
Yep.
we'll match them to do consulting together.
Oh, okay.
Because they're both applying for loans, and I build out a lot of like economic pods, so I'm spending most of my time on that and
Hmm.
building economic modeling and things and meeting people such as yourselves, and we say the same thing, like just tell us what you want. It's not really about us, and they usually just tell us exactly what I want to do a hedge fund seed. It's like, okay, I'll make a few phone calls. I want to do a private equity, or they might not know what to do. So we have a
Yeah,
company
yeah,
that has
yeah.
like a patent but no revenue. Like, all right, we'll do a bond offer. Or
Yeah, exactly. So you're tailoring it to what their need is, right? And then that's a lot of what a lot of companies, they don't know how to raise the capital, right? They've got cool tech. They probably have got maybe an okay go-to-market strategy, like they're working on it, right? And then or they maybe have early traction, right? But they don't know how to raise capital. They don't know the legal implications behind it, or even the multitude of ways to do it. They just go to a traditional route because that's what they know, or that was what they've heard about, right? So
mm,
it is, it's yeah, it's super interesting to see the different ways to kind of get your company funded and keep it moving forward, right? So yeah, that's
yeah, I
awesome.
mean, I even have some people reach out to me, hey, come join my company and write code for me. Like it just it's a giant
Michael, you gotta focus, dude. Come on,
I
let's
know, I've been told
come
that since
on.
2009, focus on one thing. And I always tell people it actually goes down to this thesis. Take
Yeah,
$100 to invest and put $1 into a different product, a different time frame, a different strategy.
true, 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 true.
So it's
Yeah.
based off that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm always open to feedback, and sometimes you don't see things in front of you, and that's why
Of course. Of
I
course
tell
we don't.
people to have 500 conversations and create personas. I learned that in grad school at Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to launch a business, you need to know who your customer is and ask a lot of different questions on what they want before you launch a company. And most people don't do that.
Exactly. No, I know they don't. I have this conversation with founders all the time. You have to do your market research. If you're not doing your market research, you're guessing. And why are you spending money on a guess? Like, I mean, it's gambling at that point. You're just gambling that you might hit it, you might not hit it. It's like just go ask somebody, ask a couple of people, ask a couple of people. What does it hurt you? It's just your
Yeah.
time, you know? Yeah, no, no, for sure.
Yeah, and I tell even sometimes I'm talking to venture capitalists, like it's good to have corporate experience too prior to launching something.
Yeah, yeah,
Sometimes it's better to have no experience and you're creating a brand new offering in a brand new market that you're not aware of, and it's almost like you're coming in as a consultant with a brand new idea.
yeah,
But
sure.
then you have the pitfalls of
No experience. Yeah,
not knowing a regulation rule and you
yeah.
blow something up. That's what happened to a lot of these crypto companies that they weren't following the regulatory rules.
Mm,
And that's a whole
mm,
different ocean of tokenization, blockchain, the technology, and
right.
the buzzword. So is AI. I actually think artificial intelligence is in a bubble right now that will pop because
I don't know. I think it's here to stay. I think
really
it'll evolve. Yeah, I think it'll evolve. It's not going anywhere. No, it's
interesting.
yeah. It's actually it's actually gonna replace a lot of different SaaS products because you don't need them anymore. AI will do it, right? And I think that's kind of where we're headed. I just do not think that. I think that where cash was king before, cash is always king, but data is going to be king. If you have data that AI can use, you're going to be sitting pretty because yeah.
I mean, to
Yeah.
build off that concept that you just explained, I mean, it is on the up and up, and I
Mm-hmm.
see where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
But what about copyright infringement? Because I teach AI as well. So
Yeah.
do they own that? No, a lot of these companies, they don't own that data. They're scraping it from some of it's copywritten sources. So
Yeah, yeah. Some of it is, but some of it's not, right?
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, yeah. So there's going to be, yes, is there copyright? Oh, hell yes. They're stealing from all over the place, but I think it just evolves. I
yeah,
think people figure it out and how they can protect some of that kind of stuff, you know. But if you have a proprietary data source, you're gold, man. I'm telling you that crap is like, you know, and then you get to choose how AI interacts with your stuff.
yeah,
That's power, right? That's super powerful, right? I mean, if you're building out your insights, which is data, another form of data, if you're building out insights from all of these trading desks or these deal rooms or whatever, it's like this, they call it exhaust data, right? The data, the data post transaction of why do people do this, or what did they choose, or what are the trends here. That's exhaust data from these transactions that are happening that are technically not your proprietary data, but the data of what happened, why they chose that stuff, all these different things, that becomes a new data set. And then you can have AI interact with that stuff. That is super cool and super powerful. So data builds data, and you know, I have all these different things. So yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting time for sure. It's interesting to see where, and it's going to go so fast. I think it's going to be interesting to see where we end up in 5 years, like a totally different place, right? You know, I think it's cool.
yeah. I
I
mean, economies pivot every 2 years, right? I mean, companies dive into the latest trend and things. So I mean, even like AI, like we are just talking about, I learned that back in 2009. That's how we built Sage. It's all AI, it's all data. But I always encourage people for your data and technology products, because I came from banking technology. Uh, really got to focus on customers and sales. And you could use AI and technology to grow that customer base,
mm-hmm.
but we'll never replace these sorts of conversations that are happening. I mean, sometimes at
No,
the end of the day, that's going to do a lot of the operational
right.
readiness and maybe some middle and back office functionality across all different verticals.
Right.
Uh, But there's somebody still going to want to talk to a person, but there'll probably be less
Oh,
staff, but more support people. But I've been saying on other podcasts, like coding, like there's Retool, there's Glide. You just need to
yeah.
configure software now. Uh,
Yeah. Knowing code anymore is just not really necessary. And I think the same thing will happen with data science, like Python and R and all this. Like if you're trying to, like anything like that, if you can just talk to your computer and ask it to do this stuff for you. I mean, I think it's, you know, hopefully we get there, right? To where people aren't having to configure that kind of stuff, and the AI can kind of lead you there. I mean, now if you look at it now, most websites are so AI enabled that, I mean, I could build one, like, and I'm horrible at building websites, but I can get one because I can, like, it uses a graphical interface that's similar, that people can you know, borrow from other technologies that they use and just place and drag and drop. It's kind of like PowerPoint, like, that's how it feels like. And you just write in the text and ta-da, you have a website that looks pretty groovy, you know. And like, it's interesting, you know, who needs a website designer anymore? So
yeah,
yeah.
there's I think Chat GPT for Figma that came out a couple years ago. I'm sure there's multiple versions of that. It's
Mm,
kind of cool, but that's an interesting, perspective you have on AI. And I always
yeah.
tell people, especially in financial markets, when in a room, if two people have a different opinion, where we have slightly different opinions, but they converge and there's some agreements is there, it actually creates liquidity. So if I
Uh,
have a product that I don't like, I will sell it to you, and you like it, you're willing to buy it. So I always tell people, business, if two people disagree, that could actually be a very good thing if you use it the right way,
that's
right?
so funny. Yeah, it's true. That is very, very true, right? So 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 Sage, you got this, your Sage products. Tell us what investment science is doing, other than, I mean, you're just matching people to money, basically.
That, I mean, right now, one of my largest clients is ex-Department of Commerce, Defense. I'm basically taking distressed assets.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say like actual physical gold mines in the US that are,
They still exist. There's gold mines in the US.
yeah, there's a bunch.
Really?
Oh yeah. We,
Okay.
we we have some of those for sale, pennies on the dollar, because they've
Oh,
been
because
decommissioned.
oh yeah, because they stripped them all of the, okay. All right,
No, well,
interesting.
it could just be a regulatory thing or something went on or they ran out of money. But even if we get into gold mines, you can
Mm.
issue gold certificates on the mining element itself of gold into a bank, which is super interesting. There's tax
Yeah,
benefits to
yeah,
them.
for sure.
There's other things like physical construction projects. Like I have a $300 million airport, Turks and Caicos. So I'm doing a lot of strategic partnerships, public-private partnerships,
Yeah,
uh, to kind of get them able to do government contracting, but also work with the public or even startups and getting them funding. So it's kind
yeah.
of built out my Rolodex from even when I was in high school all the way till now as I turned 35. And I just try to keep those relationships with all different people.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of sometimes when I talk to people, just reach out to us, tell us what you need. And that's why I'm
Yeah.
naming all these different things because I might not be the person doing it, but I'll connect them to somebody doing one of these things. So it always
Oh,
sounds,
I see. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it's
No,
just
no,
all these
that's
strategic partnerships in place.
right. Yeah, no, that's super cool. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think the government has a lot of resources that people do not use, and they should, right? I mean, they have they're actively reaching out and asking for small businesses. And right now they're actively reaching out, asking for tech, like on climate related or green stuff. I mean, it's amazing to me. And then a lot of the starts don't even know about it, right? And so I'm in the middle of writing a white paper for the Department of the Navy and they're asking and I'm basically going to show them how Facilimax can help them decarbonize their buildings, prepare for the environment, but also it impacts their military readiness, right? And so it's super interesting to see. And that was just out of the blue because I just happened to start looking for it. And they're asking for the stuff. They're asking for people to kind of help. Right. And having the US government as your customer is actually not a bad gig.
That's
you
what
know,
I tell people if they approach you and you turn them down, it's the biggest career mistake of your life because they're one of
yeah,
the largest um,
exactly.
purchasers in
Yes,
the US.
I
And
know. Yes, you have to go through a little bit of like homework and you have to go through a little bit of paperwork and you have to get set up and you have to do all these things, but you just do it. Like what? It's like 30 days out of your life. Who cares? Like they have this, they're a huge, huge resource as a customer base. I mean, like just amazing. Like all the agencies all over everywhere. You set up once and then you're good to go through all the federal agencies and everything they're trying to do. And they're actively looking for solutions.
yeah, they
It's
have a
interesting.
hard time staffing because they want two things. They want people to try and to
Hmm.
tell the truth.
Oh, I know.
Um, Unfortunately, the second thing, most people don't hit that bucket, and that doesn't
Oh, that's
when it
horrible.
comes to certain projects. But yeah, I'm having a blast. I'm learning a ton down to, let's say you don't know somebody. It's like I want to meet a VC. You could actually go to your local congressional district,
Hmm.
ask for the staffer,
Oh, interesting.
and then just say, "Hey, I'm trying to get a meeting. Could you schedule an appointment for me?" They'll
Oh,
do that for you.
that's
So
awesome.
many people don't even do that.
I know, because nobody knows. It seems like it's this thing that just exists over there, and we kind of just see them on TV. I mean, that's what, or we go to a rally. Like it's really kind of this disconnected thing that most people in their everyday life is, dealing with, right?
Because people hear about political consulting, 'cause that's something that we help people with. They think that means running for office.
Oh yeah,
But
no,
we're
no, no, no.
not doing that. I'm talking
Yeah,
about just how to. So, for example, if you have physical office space,
yeah.
the United Nations will do international business development for your company for free.
Shut up. They
Yeah,
will. That's
I'm just
awesome.
saying there's this whole world around you where
Yes,
where with all these Hunger Games and some of this negativity, I say ignore those people, block those people out of your network. If you're a
right.
startup, create your own ecosystem and create a lot of positivity around you, and then things will come to you. And there's a concept of positive business karma. You do good things for people,
Yeah, yeah, I
good things will
know.
happen to you.
Yeah, it's very true. Yeah. I will say, talking about the United Nations, we have the ability as the US Prop Tech Council to be a part, like they have these partners, a United Nations partner, which we'll apply for eventually. Like sometime this year, we're gonna apply for it. So that's super
Cool.
cool. So if you can help us with that, that would be awesome
Yeah,
sauce.
and I'm
Yeah.
happy with the prop tech console. I have a lot of private equity real estate firms that might
Mm-hmm.
want to purchase the data. So that's what I'm saying. I like to match people together. It's
That's
my deal
awesome.
room. That's part of my
Yeah.
deal room. And I say,
Yeah.
join the deal room. But again, there's rules. If you just raise your voice at somebody, bye. There's
Yeah.
no egos. There's a lot of kindness, and these people are so busy they won't even work with you. You just raise your voice. So try to be extra nice to everybody,
Yeah.
and
There you
good
go. How
things will
hard is
happen.
that? Just be nice. That's very, very cool. So, so in the what you're trying to do, which is very similar to what the council is doing, we're just connecting people, right? We're connecting customers, companies, like pop tech companies to customers and capital, universities, different things like that. I mean, that's our goal. We're very similar in that instance, right? All we're trying to do is just help the industry, and you help by networking, right? And at the end of the day, it's the unrealized gold is your network, right? And
Yeah,
so yeah, so that's at the end what we're trying to do at most of the and through events, through stages, through different ways to connect people. But yes, it's very true. So we're very aligned there for sure. So what is your big what do you see as far as the political landscape and how that's going to I will just ask. We'll get into politics. We're talking about the government. We'll get into politics. So the whole thing around this election this year, are you because you operate internationally a little bit, are you hearing anything, or is there any sort of as we try to navigate as a startup, anything like, so if Trump gets elected or Biden gets elected, like is there anything, it's going to be status quo for us, right? As far as raising
yeah.
capital.
I mean, I tell people they get all obsessive about who's in office, and I try to tell people, at least me, I try to just stay neutral because they even taught me that at the Wharton School. We had a lot of presidents at banks. Like, look, I don't agree with a lot of these democratic principles that are out there, and it's I already kind of knew this going into the program, but they were telling them walk, just be neutral. I mean, it doesn't mean like don't have any
Yeah.
values, but you're trying to run a business and you want customers and you want to be able to be kind to both sides. And that's
Right.
kind of when we come in as consultants, because we've consulted for banks now that we're consulting with government. There's some people get super nervous about whatever party. And I just say, hey, we're just here to make things happen, whatever your beliefs are.
Yeah.
We'll work with you in most aspects. I'm not saying like anything out there, but most things we'll try to help you and connect you and make things happen. So with the election coming up, I mean, I tell people it actually causes business slowness. So this whole year
Yes.
will slow down a bit, and then after the election, certain industries will go up and down depending on who wins. And I think the statistics are about 36% of the population actually votes. So
I know, isn't
it's
that so
that's
weird?
a bit wild. But what I kind of do is just tie together all these IT skills because I've been writing code since I was like 6.
Yeah.
So 28 years, and uh, help my soft skills a bit. Past couple of years, just working more with business, or even going on podcast and talking to you, like
Hmm.
trying not to interrupt people, trying to speak softly, and because most people work with companies or people they like. It's not even about
For sure. I mean, at the end of the day, that's it. That's the 90% of it. I mean, you have to have something that works, but if you're
yeah,
going to compare, if you're apples to apples, they're going to pick the who they like, right? I mean, at the end of the day, for sure.
yeah. I mean, you have to have an offering. You can't just be a likable person and do nothing.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
But
we
if you have,
we
yeah,
have all the contacts and relationships. But I mean, right now the main focus is really getting Sage off the ground. So we're getting all those securities licenses. So it's kind of the
Mhm.
economic model I built in graduate school of
Okay.
the concept of startups that run out of money. You know, the whole
Mhm.
gun to the head. Here's a 500K check, deliver next year, or else I'm taking more equity and you rely on me.
Mhm.
We're trying to kind of flip that on its head to say, if we have distressed assets, something like private equity, can we take this, almost do a tokenization offering? Because that's what we're doing with our 200 million raise, is we're doing a tokenization thing.
Yeah.
There's still regulation D filed, but can we do a tokenization? Can we do like an M&A thing? Can we issue bonds at 85% of net income? Can we launch an exchange traded fund for you? Can we build out a strategic partnership
Right,
and get
right,
the
right, right.
XM Bank involved? I don't see a lot of people doing this right now. And
No, no. I
that,
mean,
that
the exchange traded funds, they just take, I have a friend who has one in Dallas, and those take a long time. I mean, like they're, and rightfully so,
yeah,
because you want the SEC to crawl up your shorts to make sure you're not fraudulent and doing all these weird things. Sam Bankman-Fried weirdo person, right? You
yeah,
don't want people, stealing your money, right? So you do want all of those things, which is fine, but if you go through that heartache and heartburn and all the hearts and you get through it, then you are kind of set up to do some groovy stuff. I mean, it makes it your
that's
life
what
easier. Yeah.
I tell people. I'm saying the government's never going away. So you might as well learn how to use them
Yes,
in a positive
exactly.
manner for your business purpose, as long as you're doing something good. And basically have a government department
Yeah,
for all companies. Have your AI IT department. Have your sales department. Integrate all
right.
that through the strategic partnerships. Tie that together, the people, process, and technology, and that's going to be your main differentiator from your
Yes,
competitors.
yes, yeah. The people that can learn how to navigate the government and you be a federal contractor and do all of those great things. I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's where we're headed. We're trying to head. Is to be set up that way, right? And to kind of get that going for sure. Yeah,
That's
no.
a
So.
tough problem. I mean, it took me, I think, 3 years to get a gauge code. I mean, that was a giant process.
I
Some people do
know.
it faster, but it was just,
Yeah.
I don't come from that, so that was a steep learning curve for me.
Yeah, I feel you.
So I'm,
And I will tell you that the US government is making the processes kind of easier. I mean, like it used to be monumental to get through all this, but I mean, just recently, like with sam.gov, and then they're like, hey, we need you to fill out this information. And they're like asking for just like rudimentary things. Give us your organizational documents. Sure. Send us, you're like, they're not asking for the moon and the stars and the blood of your firstborn child. Like, they're just it's pretty straightforward, seems to me, like the process that we went through. And I'm just like, oh, okay. And I've noticed that recently, like with the IRS and everybody else, it's like they've streamlined a lot of their processes
that's
lately, or
what
making them more user friendly anyway.
I tell people too. I mean, if you call the IRS, they're actually pretty nice. Like you have a question, no, they'll answer your question.
I know. It's like shocker.
Use, yeah, use those resources in front of you.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's awesome. So if somebody wanted to approach you to like, hey, I've got this idea or I need help here, or what's the best like information? Do they need to have like their pitch deck ready, their go-to-market strategy already ready, or do you consult early on with people who are still trying to figure it out? How do
Yeah,
you?
I mean, I try to tell people that's why a lot of brokers work with me, because I'm not competing with any of them. I'm on the side that works with clients. I get their
Mhm.
paperwork, documentation ready,
Yeah,
and then I start making those introductions. I put people in different swim lanes so nobody's fighting, and that gives you
right,
all these things I'm talking about with all
right.
these different financing mechanisms. That
Mhm.
happens, and I always warn people, when you go into this, you're going to get burned by the stove. They may do exactly what you do, but you may not get along with them. So you just
Yeah.
the gatekeeper, I tell everybody, those gatekeepers, try to learn how they operate and learn how to work with them.
Yeah.
You get them mad, you just burn the whole network of people behind them.
And you're probably your whole deal and everything else. He burned everything.
I've
Yeah.
seen
Yeah.
deals blow up just over people raising their voice or
Yeah.
somebody not willing to wait an extra week.
Yeah. That's just
So,
silly.
because they're also interviewing you, and I always tell people, even if you have $1 left in the bank, keep your cool. Because if you blow up, no, if you blow up,
Yeah. Yeah. That's
people
true.
won't work with you.
You never want to be, operating from a place of desperation, even if you're very desperate, right? You just
Yeah.
don't want to show it to anyone. I mean, it's a very, and I get it. Trust me. I know. I mean, I've been a startup founder for the last 5 years and I've been an entrepreneur for the last 21 and there's cash flow crunches. I get it. But yeah, but you just can't let other people know that, right? You just
There's a
can't
lot
tell
of
them.
snakes in the grass out there, and I just tell people if you meet those people, block them, move on, keep talking to people till you find people you click with.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. For
It's
sure.
not every, there are good people too out there.
Yeah. So, what is your go-to? Is there like a go-to strategy for somebody? Like, say, if they were a startup and they were trying to reach somebody at the Department of Energy, how would they do that? Like, what is the best way to do that?
Right. So they would reach out to us. I would do a current state assessment, being like, do you even have tax returns? 'Cause I have some people that like haven't paid any tax, and I have to get them restructured to
Yeah,
pay taxes.
yeah.
And then they have to get their cage code. They have to go into the Apex Accelerator.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's sometimes grant writers. Some of those people will charge 10 to 50K. Some people charge a flat
Yeah.
1K retainer, but then they'll take 10% commission. So there's all different, I get all different types of requests saying I don't want to pay anything out of pocket. And then I'll zoom in. I'll be like, oh, wait a sec. I see a purchase order agreement on your balance sheet. We're going to monetize that right now.
Right. Right. Right.
So it's kind of like accelerating your growth. And then
Right.
sometimes people offer me equity and I'll take, but I'm not forcing people. Sometimes I'm like, do you want to pay us 1 to 2 points on closing? Do you want us as a consultant? I just ask 1,000 questions. I leave it up to them because everybody has a different, I guess, agenda.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. No, that's
And
cool.
it's just, I'm having fun meeting people, matching people, traveling. Like, for example, we have a hedge fund, and then there's all these other funds underneath them. They have audit
Mm-hmm.
returns. I just make a few phone calls to get them funded. But then there's also down to a startup of a surfing wave pool that's been cold calling, and then I have to connect them to some surf shops that know investors. So it's all
Yeah.
different. Really
All different.
depends. It's all different. And sometimes people approach me, hey, I know you know how to code. Can you come into my company and automate this? I'm like, okay, I could be a developer. So I just kind of throw all those things out there just to kind of be like, here's how we can help you.
You're the true gig economist, man. Like you're just doing all sorts of things. Like
Yeah,
that's
that's
interesting.
consulting. You cast a wide net.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
that's
all sales,
interesting.
really, but you have to execute too.
Yeah, that's true. You do have to execute for sure.
And it's still
Yeah.
working on our own product. So I mean, I'll eventually probably own a bank, and I want to get rid of the Hunger Games. I do have a vision. I don't know if it's going to be a very long time, might be, but um, try to give most people financing that are doing good things. If they default on loans or debt or cash, make sure there's an insurable product. I actually got laughed out of the room in graduate school when I was in Silicon Valley talking about this. They said, well, they tried to do that in 2009 and blew up. I said, it's not hard. If I have those assets and I create this model, some of those 50K fees for the Singapore thing we just talked about, we could fund that for people. No cash out of pocket. And then do the same thing. I'm talking to you. Like, do you want to do a donation? Do you want to do a point? Do you want to give, do you need more help? You just ask a lot
Yeah.
of questions.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, the whole insurance thing is it is unique, right? And I think, and it's only for certain situations, right? So it's but just what it forces most people to do is making sure they're underwriting the business well, or its use case, or it's where they're, lots of VCs will just throw money out and just hope to see what sticks. And that's one way to do it if you have a lot of money, or but you're actually, if you're going to ensure that that company does what it says it's going to do, then you're actually going through the painstaking process of making sure that they're actually, capable of doing what they say they're going to do, at least capable.
True. That's why a lot of these, at least we go back to government, they want to see a capability statement. Like you can't just
Right.
go in and build a $300 million airport if you've never done one. You have to
Yeah.
start small and build up.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I've been saying for years with venture capitalists, I mean, those statistics are staggering, 95% plus of losses that are not being insured. And I've heard all sorts of answers down to that's just how it is. We don't want it to change down to actually it's a tax write-off, but
Yeah.
you could do a life insurance policy on someone, an IUL. I mean, some of that will cost, but you could get that death benefit before, and then it's actually tax free. It doesn't move at the S&P. There's so many
Right.
different things. There's Lloyd's of London out of the UK that could insure a contract. And then there's what we just spoke about, the exit bank. And I've gone into some networking groups, spoke about this, and there's some people that are unfortunately not educated in these topics and start going nuts saying, oh, I don't understand, that must be a scam. And I just tell people, you want to call something a scam,
Yeah.
do your due diligence and understand what you're talking about first before you're going
Yeah,
to.
yeah, for sure. No, I think there's a lot of unique ways, especially as the economy becomes more global, and it is. Like you don't have to rely on your, now credit unions are great and they fill a need and all those great things. But if you're doing business and you have the opportunity to do business internationally, hopefully, I mean, you should have a variety of ways to fill out your cap stack, right? I mean, that's just kind of at the end of the day should be looking at it. And every software company does have that potential to be international if they wanted to, right? I mean, it's software. You're selling something that someone can download off of a computer. Why are you not international? You know?
Well, yeah, I've actually told people when we've raised capital, we had an easier time doing it internationally,
Oh yeah. No,
which is
I'm feeling the
interesting.
same thing here too. Like it's that's what I keep hearing from my European friends. They're like, Amy, you could raise capital here and it'd be a whole lot easier. I'm like, that's so depressing. But
I
I don't
know.
care as long as it works. I just have to go get an office in London or an office in, wherever, right?
There's the Singapore thing I just spoke about.
Yeah.
There's
I
all
mean, like,
different. There's
yeah,
so many different, and even I tell people banking is like an alphabet soup. There's even something called surety deposits, where if you launch a bank, they'll purchase certificates of deposit to launch it. Like there's just so many different nuances here. Even when I was talking about those gold mines, right? That's a distressed asset.
yep.
43101 is a government document created out of Canada. An
Hmm,
appraisal. You do appraisals in real estate, appraisal in the mine. I could get
right.
debt on the appraisal without even owning the asset. It's a brand new product offering I just built. You see,
So
dude,
yeah, so you're
it's
collateralizing on paper when that paper has an asset tied to it, hopefully, sort of. And then they can put that on it. Yeah, no, for sure. Sure. I'm
debt,
with
and you
you.
could do all sorts of things. You could enable the mines, then you could get miners to mine that. You could build the economy. You can
Mm-hmm.
create futures products to create the liquidity. I get demand overseas of all this oil, and we need liquidity for it.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
great. We'll do a futures product. Boom, there's your liquidity right there.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
the
And the
Wall
whole
Street experience.
futures game, I know it and I know it's probably and I just don't know it well. It's a whole different ball of wax. But yes, I mean but that's what it was, and its intended use was to help out people in the meantime that needed capitalization, and you could create these futures contracts and people would give you cash so that you could get your stuff done, right? It was another way to finance stuff, not via bank, kind of. I mean, it's that I'm simplifying it. It's more complex than that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's what
yeah.
I'm finding too. Is even now, I guess I was or I am a millennial in banking. There's not a lot of people my age. It's a very old school field. People 60 plus. I always say in 30 years, what is banking going to look like? What is wealth management going to look like? What about real estate agents with all these prop tech? I always hear, like we said before, AI is going to automate all these things. How is that going to integrate with the people element?
Yeah, I mean it'll do what's happening now from a real estate agent standpoint, is it's doing the initial grunt work of like people reaching out to you. It can respond to people in any language and get their question. They can get their questions answered 24/7. So it's not dependent on a person. And it leads them down the sales funnel to where they finally get to the point where they're like, oh yeah, I want to make a decision. Then they go talk to a person, right? So it's just basically taking somebody, all that stuff that the agents used to do, which was super inefficient and a waste of well, it wasn't a waste, but it wasn't the best use of their time, to when they actually talk to a person, they're ready to sign a contract, they're ready to roll, they're ready to go, right? And so then they can have this, and then that person can have all this information about this is what they went through, this is what they like, this is what they've seen, this is what, and they're ready to buy this house, and they can be act like a consultant at that point, right? And just, okay, make sure that you've got everything that you need. But at some point, if people trust the AI, it's a trust thing, right? Do they trust the AI or not? If they trust the AI, then they don't need to talk to a person. They gotta,
Right.
but yeah, you know what I mean?
But
But
people
it's
also
till they
get
trust the AI.
frustrated, right? I'm frustrated. You call a bank, you're on hold for over an hour sometimes.
Oh yeah, no, that's just
But
stupid.
there's that to me is just inexcusable, right? With the like,
With AI now, that no one should be on hold. No one should even have to call anyone. You should be able to ask your phone about this bank and what they do, and they have the information there that, meets all the regulations or whatever, but gets their questions answered. They can do it with their chat bot. Why do they have to call anyone? Like, that, like, yeah, that whole thing. Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
there's that piece too. But even on top of that, right, there's use cases when that breaks down where they do need to talk to someone. Because I always tell people
Sure.
AI is good for certain things, but every single thing out there, it's almost like it's going to be like a
No.
net, can do a certain amount of things, and there's going to be all these other things that
Sure.
they can't do.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
those are going to be the cases of the phone calls. But yeah, I mean, like I said, there's been a lot of mass outsourcing. I mean, China economy hasn't been doing well. A lot of that money's moving into India now, and
Right. I
India is the
know.
top 5 economy, and a lot of people don't talk about that either for some reason.
I know they are, and they just surpassed China in population. Like they're growing like crazy town. And I have Indian companies that I talk to a lot, and then they're looking to partner too. And yeah, that's a whole interesting economy there. I mean, it's quickly, becoming more and more the economic environment is so much more better. There's, obviously every even in the United States, we have a lower class, middle class, and upper class, but it's not as, there's a middle class in India. Like there used to not be, it used to be rich and poor, and that's what they had. But now there's the middle class, and it's really kind of interesting to see what's happening in India for sure. Yeah, it's
I
awesome.
think even in America, they have the people who immigrate here that are from India have the highest median income on average too.
Oh
There's
yeah,
things out there
yeah,
too. That's fascinating as well.
yeah, yeah. Very
So
well educated, and that helps, right? And like to them, a college degree is like a high school degree. You really need to have a master's or a PhD. Like if it's really kind of interesting. Yeah, everybody has their master's degree, right? So it's like
yeah,
interesting.
I'm just curious. Like even with flights, like I was supposed to go on a trip this week. All the flights are booked. Like I always question, are people even working anymore? Like most,
Oh, I
not
know.
people, not everybody, but seems like, if you talk about trends, airlines seem to be doing quite well right now. I mean, from that perspective, because you had the knee-jerk reaction during COVID with all the outsourcing and layoffs, and then they laid too many people off. But I always warn these big companies too, when you treat people like a number like that, you could lose
Yeah,
customers,
yeah. I mean,
and it's
yeah. I
tough to
mean,
find.
with Boeing, I think it's tough, right? Like
Yeah,
the whole Boeing mess, like the airlines. But yes, people are traveling, and the prices have adjusted. I love the COVID prices because we were in Texas, so we could go anywhere. It didn't really matter. I was flying everywhere for like $19. It was awesome because
oh
we just
yeah,
I was like, can we have that back? No, now it's like $500.
yeah. Now
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
crazy. We're almost in, I guess, some type of stagflation, like the 70s with pricing.
I know.
It's
I
wild because food's
know.
expensive, but there's a
Yeah.
way with all these things to, I tell people, I mean, we did a YouTube video on CB Insights. Some of my blog posts are from like my 20s when I was doing financial modeling. I have all this research I just post. Probably most people don't read it. So I tell people with SEO, if you're a small business, create a YouTube channel from your blog post and link them, and that's going to boost your backlinks. Double
Oh,
SEO.
yeah,
A
for
lot of
sure.
people don't. It's the problem is if you're working a corporate job, sometimes especially in banking, like on LinkedIn, most of my followers are in banking. If you're a full-time employee, you're not even really on average, most posts you can't even like. You're not seeing a lot of people in banking posting a lot.
Yeah, for
It's a
sure.
heads down field kind of. So, but in marketing, right, you want to have the omni-channel marketing. You want to have all those, you want to have a YouTube channel. You want to be on all these different channels, reuse content, recycle content.
Right.
It's just when you're talking about all these things, you need a lot of people in place to work well together, or systems or AI to make this all happen.
Yeah, you do. I know because we have which you are on our podcast and on our YouTube channel, and I feel it every day because it's why I don't edit anything because I don't have the luxury or time. Or I mean, there's some AI that'll make clips for me, which is super cool, but I don't edit anything, and it's partly it's because I just want to record the content and push it because I think the content is more important than having all the fancy stuff, right? And so. Yeah. So I would just push it. Well, this has been such a fun conversation. This has been so cool. Look at that. We're here in an hour already. We've just been chatting for an hour. All right. Well, if somebody needed to reach out to you to they needed help and they're hoping you can help them, how could they reach out to you? How could they find you?
They could just give us a call at 917-512-9523 or
Okay.
go to investmentscy.com, click schedule a meeting.
Awesome.
Wealth management, sagefusion.co.
There
I'm
you
actually
go.
rebuilding the website as we speak, creating my landing
Woo!
pages.
That's awesome. Very
So,
cool. Probably using AI too. Yeah, because that's
yeah, a
so
little
easy.
bit. There's always a little bit of that, but then I have people because there's so much customization I can't do it.
Oh,
But that
okay.
helps
Can't do
with
it.
the base.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely helps and it streamlines. You know, like I said, we don't need as many people, but I'm hoping all these displaced workers um, develop a skill set or receive some type of help.
Yeah.
And I always say, again, go to your local congressional district, speak with the
Hmm.
staffer, tell them what you need, but also ask them what they need help with. Don't be
Yeah.
selfish.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly. Great advice for sure. Well, thanks for coming on the show. This has been super awesome. Thanks
Thanks
so
for
much.
having us. And anytime, reach out. And it was a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Mhm.